Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Caitlin.
Fucking weirdo.
True. How are you today?
I'm fabulous.
Fabulous. Would that have anything to do with the mimosas we just had?
No.
God, stop.
Mimosa.
Well, technically we had mimosas because there were two and we each had one. There were more than one. Math.
It's for losers.
Oh, no. Sorry, all you mathematicians out there. You suck. No, I'm just kidding.
You don't suck. You're just a
You're
big
just
old
a loser.
nerd.
We're glad you exist so we don't have to do it.
Yeah, thank you for inventing calculators.
Yeah, we really needed those in
From
our
the
lives.
bottom of my heart, I
Yes.
thank you. Whoever invented the calculator. I don't care to know, but thank you.
Yeah, me too. But now I am a little curious. This is Luminal, a true crime, strange happenings podcast where we really prioritize cases that you may not have heard of, but that's not really the case in this episode, maybe.
And
And I wanted to finish Caitlin's sentence, and I have no idea where she's going with this.
And we laugh and joke a lot.
Oh, God.
But please know that it's never at the expense. Why did I forget that word? Jesus Christ. It is never at the expense of victims. We try our hardest.
To be appropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
Sentences are hard.
That is very true. Yeah.
Jokes are easy if you're funny like us. If you're not, you're probably a loser and you do math in your spare time.
Half of our listeners just dropped off.
Sarah's the mean one. I'm the nice one, obviously.
Yeah, you know. But anyway, so if you don't like mixing comedy and true crime, you might not enjoy this podcast.
Or
All
us
right.
in real life.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't even want to be our friend for real.
Yeah, but the rest of you who are still listening, if we haven't lost you, I bet people that even have listened to all the episodes sometimes are like, shut the fuck up.
We already know this.
Just drink a beer and tell us your story.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? Maybe they like the banter. Let us know. Okay, so today, the reason I said we prioritize cases that you may not have heard of and that might not be the case today is because our theme today is
Media frenzy cases. So cases that caused a big old stir.
a big old stir in the news. It's the soup of news. That's what they'd say about that. So,
I don't want my news to be soupy.
ew. Well, if you leave it out in the rain,
Why would you leave your news out in the rain?
because the boy on the bike threw it out there and you hadn't picked it up yet.
But they covered in a plastic thing.
Not in the 40s where I'm from. Okay, so I'm going to go first because I'm going to give a few warnings. My case is pretty rough, so we're going to get it out of the way.
I didn't sign up
first.
for this, so I'm leaving now.
Caitlin's like, can I please turn off my mic and just have my headphones on?
Bye.
I'm going to get through that first, and then Caitlin will tell her story, which will hopefully leave you with a better feeling. Not that it's necessarily good. I don't know what it is, but leave you with a better feeling than mine, which will not leave you with a good feeling.
So if rough cases are not something you can handle, if they're not your jam, skip ahead until you hear me talking a lot. If I'm talking a lot, but I'm still not talking about my case, skip ahead a little further.
Skip the first 3 times Caitlin's talking a lot.
Yes. And then don't skip my case because
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
It'll be about halfway in the episode. So I'll do my beer and then my warnings so you can decide whether or not you want to skip ahead.
Yeah.
All right. So I am bringing to the table the Ataraxis.
Also
Pale.
from Sleepy Whale, not Napping Whale, but
Sleepy.
Sleepy Whale.
Sleepy Whale is where we bought these beers. It's a tap house in Chandler, Arizona. Okay. This
There
was
is a toenail over here on the ground.
You've told me that before. It's Victoria, my sister.
Why don't you pick it up?
Because it's disgusting and I don't want to touch it.
Vacuum it up.
Okay. Ew, I hate it.
Vacuum.
I hate it.
You hate vacuuming a toenail up more than you want a toenail to be on your carpet?
That's where you sit. I don't ever see it.
Everything's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. What's our beer?
Ataraxis that Caitlin got for me at Sleepy Whale. And it was brewed and packaged at Pueblo Vida Brewing Company in Tucson, Arizona. It says keep cold, drink fresh. It's made with Nelson hops and it's 5.5% ABV pale ale.
Ooh, this is good. I don't normally like light beers, quote unquote. This packs a lot of flavor for a pale ale.
This tastes like cheddar cheese.
You say that a lot.
Beer tastes like cheddar cheese. I don't know what to tell you.
I disagree.
Well, yeah, I disagree.
Gouda bye. I would not pay any cheddar to see you.
This is really good.
It is really, really good.
Really good.
It's delicious.
All right. This is one of the best beers we've had in a while. If you guys want to see our ultimate beer list, we have that on Patreon. You can join our Patreon, patreon.com/luminalpod. But we put every single beer we've tried and whether or not we'd recommend it and who we'd recommend it to. So we're definitely going to give a big thumbs up to this one. It's a little fruity. It's really, I feel like it's really, it's really burp. It's really complex.
It kind of tastes like orange juice, or that was just a burp from the mimosa. I'm not sure.
I think we'll let you problem solve that one over there. No, it is kind of fruity. It's really good.
Do you ever look down at your legs like a day or two after shaving, and then you see some hairs that are really long, and you're like, I have missed that spot for the last 10 years.
And you're like, I've missed that spot since
How is there a hair on my leg that's 10 feet long?
I hate when that happens
I just
so
did
much.
That. I look down and there's this little patch that has long hairs.
Just get a tattoo that says, don't forget this spot. Right where you always forget. All right, my case. I am going to be telling you, and Caitlin, you may know this because it was a media frenzy, maybe not. I'm going to be telling you guys about the Wonderland Club.
I don't know this.
And Operation Cathedral. And the Wonderland Club and Operation Cathedral is one of the largest pedophile rings that has ever existed. Operation Cathedral was the operation that took it down. But the Wonderland Club was what the ring was called. I don't get into any details about the type of things that happen to the children because it's pedophilia. But I do mention child abuse fairly often. I do mention child sexual assault fairly often. And those are really the only warnings, but the whole case is about that. Okay, so we will get into it. My sources are BBC Global Crime Report, BBC News, an article by Eric Shorey for Oxygen, Wikipedia, TSF Portugal, it's like a news website, an article by Sean O'Neill for The Telegraph, and then also the Netflix original documentary series, Out of Sight, The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. And that will make sense because it's not about this, but it mentions it in that documentary. In 1998, an 11-year-old boy named Rui Pedro was riding a bicycle near his house. He had a long name, and I'm not saying his whole name because I could not figure out how to pronounce his two last names. He had his dad's last name and his mom's last name. So I'm just going by his first and middle name, so Rui Pedro. He was riding his bicycle near his house on an early spring afternoon. It was in northern Portugal where he and his family lived. And Rui's mom, Filomena, was at work, but conveniently worked across the street from their house, which was intentional, actually, so she could be really close to the house and just like walk across the street to work. So Rui got on his bicycle to go ask Filomena an important question. Could he hang out with his, like, a really great friend of his? Filomena said no, not because of who the friend was, but she just said no for whatever reason. The friend he wanted to hang out with was 22-year-old Alfonso Dias. And
how old was Roy?
11.
Okay.
Alfonso lived in the area that they had grown up, that Roy grew up in, and he grew up there too, in a very disadvantaged home. And Roy's family had sort of like taken him in. He didn't live with them, but they knew that he was from a background where he needed some assistance. So they often bought him clothes and other necessities and kind of just took him in, almost like an older sibling to Roy.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes sense. He'd be like an older brother.
So it wasn't unusual for Roy to hang out with Alfonso. So Alfonso wasn't terribly mature, and he acted more adolescent than his age would suggest, a lot of people said. He acted kind of like a goofy, like 14-year-old. Whether that was a developmental issue or just a maturity thing, like I didn't find anywhere. So Filomena said no, but that she'd be home at 5 and to just go play, like in the parking lot or near the house or whatever. He could ride his bike around and just go play. So Roy nodded and headed off with his bike. He loved soccer and make-believe games. He was an extremely playful boy. He also like loved animals and collected he had like a bunch of canaries as pets. Like he was super into colorful birds and stuff. He was riding his bike and he saw 3 neighborhood boys who he knew playing in the field near his house. So he stopped his bike, got off, and was going to play soccer with these boys he saw. Suddenly a black truck pulled up, and the 3 neighborhood boys later said that Roy like dropped his bike, went to the rolled down window of the truck, and then got in the truck, leaving his bike behind. 5 o'clock rolled around, and Filomena was done working for the day. But Roy wasn't in the house or the lot or the work where he liked to play and where she just assumed he'd be playing. She was immediately concerned because Roy had epilepsy, and though it was controlled, the risk of having seizures was always a possibility, whether you were medicated or not. And he would have like big seizures, and you can get brain damage from that. Like it's really scary. So Filomena started looking around, and she saw Roy's bike like across the street in the field. The kids were there, and they were quick to say what happened and what they saw, first to Filomena and then the police. The kids also said that they knew the person driving the car. It was everyone's neighborhood pal, Alfonso Dias. The police interviewed Alfonso right away, and he was like, yeah, no, I absolutely did not give him a ride. Like, Absolutely never today, but I did see him, like it was 150 or like maybe it was even 155. He was like weirdly specific. But then I drove to my girlfriend's house in this neighboring town. So no, I just saw him for a second. Alfonso's girlfriend lived in this neighboring town, so it was just a ride away. And Alfonso told the police that when he got to his girlfriend's house, he received a call from his cousin about Rui and that Rui was missing. And Alfonso said he started crying when he got this call, and then he started crying when he was telling the police about this. And then he blurted something out like pretty immediately. He blurted out the ominous statement, Rui Pedro could already be very far away, close the borders. And they were like, what? Not what we were expecting. So big searches began with missing persons posters, national media attention, so on and so forth. But the case was overshadowed by the media sensation of a lifetime, which was the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, which happened. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like one of the most famous missing child ever. If you're not familiar, definitely watch the Out of Sight documentary on Netflix. But essentially, this Scottish-British family was on a vacation in Portugal, and I think she was 3, daughter was sleeping in her bed and just vanished.
Yeah, they were at the hotel, and all the parents were like just downstairs, like at the restaurant in the hotel eating, and they went to check. One of them went to check on the kids, and she was gone.
The other 2 kids were there, but she was gone. And there was this huge media frenzy for like years after that. So unfortunately, Rui Pedro, his case got no attention. And that became a thing too. Like the people in Portugal wanted to help find Madeleine McCann, but they were also like, hey, these Portuguese children keep going missing. And I know that we're worried about like the little wealthy white girl, but like, can we please get some attention too for our Portuguese children in impoverished communities?
Yeah.
So that became a thing as well. And not to say that one child deserves more attention than the other, but like they do truly deserve equal attention. And so her case really did end up overshadowing a lot of cases around this time. And that's what happened with Rui Pedro. So many, many, many sightings of Rui and tips came in. One big tip was a picture. A journalist named Nuhu Nahajaro was in Disneyland Paris with his family. When they got photos, like, you know how you go on rides and you like can see the photos? They were on a roller coaster, and sitting behind them was an older man, like in his 40s or something, and like a small boy who looked exactly like Rui. And so they were like, ooh, maybe this is Rui Pedro.
That's eerie.
Yeah, with like an older dude at Disneyland. Ooh. Not that it's terrible to be with an older dude at Disneyland, but
it is if he kidnapped you.
Yeah, then that's terrible all times. So Alfonso's cousin came forward and told the police an alarming testimony. He said that Alfonso had picked up him and Rui and had said they were, quote, going to go to the prostitutes. So they went to an area of town known for sex work, and this seemed to be confirmed by a sex worker named Alcina. Alcina said when she was interviewed, on the afternoon of March 4th, 1998, which is when this took place, a black truck pulled up and motioned her over. Alcina recognized the driver, someone who came to the area fairly often, Alfonso Dias. Alfonso offered her 2,000 escudos, which is what the currency was at the time in Portugal, which was $11, to have sex with Rui, who was 11. So he offered her $11 to have sex with a child. Rui looked very, very uncomfortable, Alcina said. And Alfonso quickly was like, oh, he's 14, which is the age of consent in Portugal. So Alcina was like, okay, fine. So Alcina led Rui out into the woods. But immediately when they got away from the car, she said he started like crying a lot. So she sat him down and she was comforting him and just wanted to calm him down. Like she wasn't being, she wasn't making a move or anything. It's just her job, which is one like, not that anyone is necessarily thinking this, but just because you are a sex worker doesn't mean you're going to assault someone. Like if someone's crying, you're going to be like,
no, I wasn't thinking that at all. I assume no one was.
Yeah. Okay, good. So Alcina asked Rui if his mom knew that he was there, and he was like, no, and he was crying. So Alcina said that she was going to wait a little while to make it look like they did something. They would hang out, and then she would take him back to the truck, and they didn't have to do anything. So she took Rui back to the truck, and Alfonso, Rui, and I guess the cousin not. It was just Alfonso and Rui drove off. So that's what the cousin said.
The cousin stayed.
Yeah. So that was sort of it. The case kept being put on the back burner due to the Madeleine McCann case. Now, I don't know that 100% for sure, but that's what everything I was reading was like, well, that case was getting so much attention that this one kind of just...
Right. Like, I'm sure the police didn't stop, but at least journalism stopped.
Yeah.
So you can't find